Welcome back, viewers. We are getting very close to testing our indicators, but before we do, I wanted to make a quick video outlining how I test indicators. Before we get into this though, if you have not watched my first 3 or 4 videos, you absolutely need to go do that. You can find a link to the first video below in the description. Here at the Academy of Forex, we are building the best trading system possible as a team. And as a team, we will all profit from it when we are done. Trust me when I say you do not want to miss out on this. You can also find a link below in the description to our Discord server that you can join so we can all discuss indicators and the process as we move forward. Okay, let's get into today's video. So, this process is a little bit different than the process I will be following as I'm making videos for the channel here. And that's because as I'm testing indicators for the channel, I want to test indicators in the way that is suggested by the professionals or the way that is suggested that is most popular. And I do that because according to the professionals, if you trade an indicator in this particular way, whatever way they suggest, it should be profitable. But often we find that that is not the case. And so first, we need to test it in the best way suggested before we can start digging into it and testing it in other ways. Also, there is a time issue when making these videos. I don't want to spend 2 hours testing one indicator and boring you guys to death. So, as you can imagine, it's a little bit difficult to go through and test an indicator in every way possible and record all those results. So, some of you, I'm sure, will be familiar enough with indicators and trading that you can dig in and tweak the settings and try different things to see if you can make an indicator work. And some of you may not be as familiar with trading in indicators and wondering to yourself, how exactly do we go through this process? And this video will be mostly for you. So let's get started here. First of all, the way you test an indicator often is going to be dictated by what kind of indicator it is. There are 2-line cross indicators, there are 0-line cross indicators, there are oversold, overbought indicators, there are oscillators, on and on and on. There are tons of different types of indicators. And so as you are testing that indicator, it will kind of be dictated by what kind of indicator it is. So to start this process, I'm going to pull up a list of indicators here, and I'm going to scroll down, and I am just going to pick a random indicator. Don't really know what this indicator is. Can't say I've ever really played with it before, but just for example's sake, so you guys don't think I'm just cherry picking, what I've done is I've pulled up this indicator here, and as I pull it up, let's start with this first. You can have indicators below chart, you can have indicators on chart. Some indicators go directly on the chart, such as moving averages. Some indicators go automatically below the chart. I do know that in TradingView, you can click here and you can move to existing pane above to combine the indicator with the price action chart. I often find that with most indicators that are designated for below chart or above chart, they are just exactly that. You should keep them below or above the chart. As you can see here, it doesn't do us much good to have all these squiggly lines inserted onto the price action chart. I mean, you can move the price action chart maybe to get some kind of strategy going on here. But the problem with that is that it is very subjective. There is no set place where you are moving price action to. That is another big thing when testing indicators, is to take out the bias. You need to take out as much of the subjectiveness of a strategy or an indicator as possible. If you are looking at an indicator and it gives you a signal to go long or to go short, there should be no question in anybody's mind that that is a signal to go long or short, with a very simple explanation of how that indicator works. If you are the only one that can see this signal to go long or to go short, or you have to pull this indicator onto your price chart and you have to adjust the price action to where it fits directly below and go through all these crazy steps, that just it leads to a lot of problems, and you want to avoid that. So enough rambling on about that. Let's move this back down to a new pane below. We have this line here. I'm not exactly sure what this line is doing, but when I first load an indicator onto the chart, I like to kind of scroll back, and I like what we are looking for are these long price action moves. Not these little ups and downs and ups and downs. We are looking for these long, drawn out trades. Those are the ones we want to be a part of. And we are trying to see if at any point in time there is anything within this indicator that is showing any sign of giving an idea that we should have went long or short during any of these processes. All these notifications stop popping up on my computer. There we go. All right. And as you can see, it's not really giving us anything. It's just kind of bumping along. Looks like it might, these peaks might be increasing as the volatility increases on the pair, maybe. And so you can see as these really big bars were taking place, kind of get these peaks in there. But first and foremost, we are looking for something that gives us entry signals. So either a signal to go long or a signal to go short. Now, as I'm doing this, I'm also keeping an eye out for other things like a volatility or a volume filter. Sometimes you'll find indicators that filter out the choppiness or the ranging market as the price really isn't making a lot of movement. And those can be extremely valuable as well. You don't want to be getting into the market as this thing's just whipping up and down and up and down and up and down. You want to be getting in as it's making an actual move and as it's running for a distance. And so these are things I'm keeping an eye out for. Is it filtering out the ranging market? Is it giving us a good exit signal? At this point, it doesn't seem to be doing a whole lot of anything. So, now begins the process. Well, This is a very good example of a very not so good indicator. Sorry if that word vomit there. Generally speaking, an indicator that the inputs cannot be modified on is just not going to be a good indicator. Very, very rarely will an indicator give good signals on the default setting that it was built around. You will almost always have to go in and tweak the settings of an indicator to get it to react or to dial it in the way we need it to function. Here is an example of an indicator that has no inputs that can be modified. And you almost always want to stay completely away from those. You can change the color of the line, which doesn't help us at all. You can change whether it's a histogram, you can change whether it's a line, you can change whether it's an area, and so on and so on. But honestly, at this point, this indicator is just doing a whole lot of nothing. Now, before we throw this indicator out the window, let's go back here. Let's leave it, let's go purple. Maybe you guys can see it a little better that way. Another thing that I will often do is add indicators on top of indicators. You'll be surprised. So here's another example. Doesn't even necessarily have to be an indicator. Sometimes it can be a line. Let me increase the size a little bit so you guys can see nice and bold. As you can see, I set this at 4. Again, I'm not sure if it has any meaning at all. Looks like this stops at 0 and does not go to the negative. So it can only go up. But as you can see here, we've set a line at 4. So sometimes crossing a line, either up or down, that we've created will help, give us a signal. Whether it's an exit signal, whether it's a volatility change, whether it's an entry signal, whatever it may be. I don't think this number 4 signal line really is doing anything. Basically what I'm doing is scrolling back and looking at the points where it breaks to see if any kind of price action is taking place, and it just does not look like it. So we're going to delete that. We're going to go back to what I was talking about just a moment ago, and that's where you can add other indicators on top of an indicator. So let's do a exponential moving average, for example. We have now put an exponential moving average, which is extremely hard to see because it is almost the same color. And here is a good example of an indicator which inputs can be modified. So you can see we can go in and we can change this from a 9 period to a 15 period to a 40 period. We can change it from the ADR to a high to high low, just we can offset it. We can do a lot of stuff to this exponential moving average. But first, let's change this. Let's see, what color can we make this? Let's just go with orange. Okay, so here is an example of us adding an indicator to an existing indicator. This is a good go-to as well. There is adding lines, whether it be often whenever I add lines. Let's do this. Let's get rid of this guy because we already know that that thing's just doesn't seem to be doing anything. Let's find ourselves an oscillator. Awesome. There we go. Well, ultimate. The ultimate oscillator is what this one's called. So sometimes adding lines at multiple points, say 60, and another one at 30. Again, I'm just playing around here just to see what happens. You will sometimes get results here. What did it just do? For some reason, it looks like it created an alert when I created those lines. We don't want that. Okay, there we go. So sometimes you'll find that putting two lines in here can turn one indicator into a indicator that does multiple things. It's giving you long signals, short signals, but it's also can filter out some of the chop in the market, some of that those times when the market is just ranging out and there's not a lot happening. Let's see here. And so this is a process that I like to follow. I do this a lot on oscillators. I either put a what's called a zero line cross, but it looks like this one doesn't go zero. Looks like it pretty much stays between 20 and maybe 80. And so you really can't put a zero, split the difference, and then call that a zero line. But in this particular case, as you can see, we have put a top line, which would be a signal to go long, and a bottom line, which would be a signal to go short. And then I start looking. I'm looking here to see right here, signal to go short. Right here, and we probably would have got a win right there. Let's see, this candle opened at 87.69 and the low of this one was 86.16. Yeah, that definitely would have been a win on this one. And I start scrolling through and looking. Here's another short signal right here. On this one, this candle opened 86.70 and it bottomed out down here at, is that right? Open 86.70, low 84.71. Yeah, that would have been a win. Right here, that wouldn't have been too good of a trade. We'd have definitely taken a loss on that one. And I start just kind of playing around here, just looking. Looks like that would have been a win. We had another signal here. That would have been a win. This one here would have been a loss. This was a cross here. Boop. That would have been a win. Can't tell you off the top of my head if I've ever specifically tested this oscillator. Let's see, open 89.50, let's say, low 89.70 or 88.72. So no, we would not have gotten stopped out on that one. That was a long signal and a win. This was a long signal and a win. So, I mean, you can kind of see here, like, you know, this is the process that I follow. Right here, and see, this is something, a good example here of something that you'll run into. If I took the trade here, it's very likely that I still would have been in the trade when this signal right here took place. But let's say I wasn't in the trade and I was doing something else and missed this trade. That one would have been a loser. Now let's go down here. That one definitely would have been a loser. How about these guys here? And so, yeah, guys, this is, you know, this is the process that I follow right here. I start just kind of tinkering around, and I just do a short span, and I kind of look and see, you know, does it look good? Am I getting any kind of reasonable amount of wins and signals? In this case, I am. And so the next step of this process would be to throw this back on the replay function, go back a year or two, and run it through a year's time and see what it does. See if it's meeting our 60% win rate, and if it is, then it would go onto the list of things, list of indicators to tweak a little bit and test and play around with. It may be a matter of moving this from 60 to 55, and this one from 30 to 35 to get in a little bit sooner. Here's, here's something that I noticed right away, and this could just be kind of a one-off fluke, but it looks like it's happened a few times. It gave the signal to go short here. We could have, I know on my personal system, I very likely would have gotten in 2 or 3 days before that and gotten a good couple hundred extra pips out of that before this one gave me the signal to then go long. See, it kind of did the same thing right here, where it seemed like it was kind of delayed. And so you want to be careful with getting indicators that take too long to get you into a trade. We want to be capturing as much of this trade as possible, and that's when you go in and you start playing around with it and seeing what happens. 15 out, so let's see if you can get better responses out of it. I start just playing with the settings. I'll do this a lot. I'll take it from like 14 to 30 and see what happens. Not a whole lot. Let's take that from 28 to 5. See what happens. Not a whole lot. Sometimes it's a matter of, you know, kind of slowly playing with each one of these settings and kind of dialing it in to get something, you know, that reacts a little bit quicker. But you will often find that a lot of these indicators are very slow. They're not leading indicators. There's nothing that predicts the price action that's going to happen. There are some that claim to, and they are almost always inaccurate. They just nobody can predict exactly what price action is going to do before it happens, and so they are lagging indicators. They are reacting after the fact. So keep that in mind. Here's another example of it didn't give us the buy signal until here. We would have definitely wanted to be in way down here. And so, as I said, can kind of tweak these settings and kind of play with it and see if you can't dial it in a little bit more. All right, so this video is getting a little bit long, so I think I'm going to call it here, but you can kind of see this is my process for looking at indicators. I basically throw it up on the chart here and I kind of scroll back and I'm looking for instances where price makes a move, doesn't just sit there and chop around and range out. It actually makes a move in a direction, and then I look to the indicator to see if it's giving me any kind of indication that it could have told me to enter or exit a trade. All right, guys, so the ultimate oscillator is the one that we're playing with here, and this might be a good one for us to get back to. We will definitely do that at some point as we run through the indicators. But yeah, guys, so as you can see, this is how we how I play with indicators, how I sit here and tweak the settings and add lines and other indicators to them and just kind of play around with them to see if we can get any kind of good signals out of them. So, alright guys, I hope you found this video useful. Take this information, go play with indicators, start tweaking them, testing them, working with them. Follow my videos as I am testing indicators as well, so that way after I do my video, you will have your opportunity to go in and test it and tweak it and play with it and see what we can do with these indicators as we build our system going forward. All right, everybody, that's about it. If you have not done already, please subscribe to the channel. Click the subscribe button below. Turn on notifications so you don't miss any of these videos. Join us on Discord. And that's it. All right, guys, I hope to see you on the next video.